Hey guys, we're back. This time we're taking a look at Star Trek Alliance, the Dominion War Campaign Part 2. And this one introduces the Klingons as playable characters. Sorry about the glare on there. But you have a Vorcha and a Bird of Prey. I don't know what one it is. Burrell maybe. But it also brings in, I think that's a battleship. I can never tell their parts. It might be a cruiser. And then two Galer class ships from when the Cardassians were members of the Dominion. It's more of the same. This is a single player or multiplayer campaign. This one says 1 to 2 players on here, but it'll also allow you to play up to 4 players when you combine it with other sets. I think you can max out at 6 if you have multiple copies. But yeah, we're going to get in and take a look at this new addition to the Star Trek Alliance campaign. So first thing, as with the other set, they've attached these now, which is great. This is the way it should have been originally. If you're not familiar, the old attack wing ones had a big hole in the box here, and you had to cut a piece of plastic off of here and tape it on. It was a mess. I'm so glad they fixed that issue, because that drove me nuts in the old game. I think all the new ones are like that, so I should probably stop mentioning it. I won't mention it in the next one, sorry. This one's a mess in here. I kind of punched out the tokens and sorted things out, but everything's every which way. So on the top here we have our AI cards for the ships. And this has an AI card for the Beetle ships, the attack ships, which were in the Part 1 Star Trek Alliance, so I'm not sure why they included these. I'll have to double check and make sure nothing was changed or updated. Maybe it's just for people who went straight to Volume 2. But it doesn't even come with a Beetle ship, so it's got to be a replacement for the original. We'll have to see about that, but set that aside. We have our new, it is a battle cruiser, so it's half and half right. And 5 attack, 1 agility or evasion, what do they call that? Yeah. 5 attack, 1 evasion, 6 hull, 4 shield. That's a pretty respectable line for a big ship. And then over here we have our maneuvers, which are going to be chosen again based on where you are in relation to them around the clock, and then also near and far. Then you have their choose your action, again based on a little checklist you go down, and then during the combat phase. So nifty little things. The one thing on these that they need to keep in mind is that it doesn't have these side, obviously, because the text is there, but this side is basically mirrored on that side. It's the exact same thing, except it's a left turn instead of a right turn. We have our Gator class, 4 attack, 1 evade, 4 hull, 3 shield. So a little bit weaker than the battle cruiser, but still one of my favorite ships in attack wing. They also have that 180-degree front arc, which is nice. But yeah, those are the AI cards. And there's plenty of other videos out there on how to play and how to, they're going to go into that stuff a lot more in depth. I'm just kind of going over things here, so definitely check those out if you want to learn more about them. I went over it a little bit more in my first video, but I pretty much said the same thing in that too. So we have our dials, and in this, oddly enough, maybe they listened, we do have dials for the Galer class. I don't think there's one for the battleship, though. Double check. No, there is. So yeah, maybe they actually listen to people in that. But you have your 2 dials for the Galer class ships, and it is a Cavort class bird of prey. And we have the Jem'Hadar battle cruiser, and then of course the Vorcha. The Vorcha's been my favorite ship in all of Attack Wing. So we got on to other stuff. We will get to the cards last. We have a bunch of tokens. Where do we want to start with the tokens? Let's start with the actual... Oh, this would be why they have the Beetle in there. So in case you don't have models, they do have... So yeah, for some reason, if you didn't buy the first one and you don't have the models, they have 3 Beetle ship tokens in here. And they're cut out just like the plastic bases, with the little notches to put the maneuver templates in. So you're going to use these just like ships. So we have 3 of those. They're labeled 1, 2, and 3 on the front, 4, 5, and 6 on the back. So maybe you can use these in conjunction with the starter set to get up to 6 beetles now. That'll be interesting. Then we have some freighter ships here. I think these are the ships we ended up using in Star Trek Ascendancy for the Bajorans. But they're like Karamia or something like that. Karametra. I can't remember what it is. But they're, I think in this they're using them as freighters. And on the flip side of those, we've got 2 Birds of Prey and 2 Reliant class. So maybe we'll get some allies in these missions. I have not read through the missions and looked at them on this, so I'm not sure what all is included in this pack. And we got our ship bases, and we'll put those at the end here. We'll put them together when we get to the ships. Got some more terrain tokens. Looks like asteroid fields on one side. I'm not sure what those are. Suns? Some kind of thing there. That looks like a space station. It's supposed to be space station or a wreckage of a ship. But I'm not sure what the other ones are supposed to be. Got me on that one. We'll see when we get to the campaign, I guess. And we got a bag of tokens here for the various ships that we got now. Some more cloak tokens. Now we actually have ships that use cloak tokens. We got our captain tokens. These are going to be used on the AI ships to basically designate which one of the cards goes with which ship by matching up the numbers. And there's also color-coded Klingon Empire logos there. We got our mission tokens. These are actual numbered on one side. There's 12. I go 1 through 12. Came with a set of those in the first game too, so I think there's a little bit of redundancy on here in case you did buy the first one, but then there's like the tokens in case you didn't. We got our shield tokens, the active and disabled sides there. These bags didn't come with it either. I put everything in bags as I punched them. So you have a die 6, which goes with these AI scripting cards, basically. Once you figure out what direction and which, whether you're close or short or long range, you're going to roll on that chart. Depending on what your roll is, what maneuvers the ships are going to take. There's a D12 in here. This is just used as a round counter. You count up to know what turn it is. Certain, like, more bad guys will spawn on certain turns and things like that. Certain events happen at different turns. There's other ways to keep track of that too, but those work. I've actually used the counters before. A couple different things on that. Underneath our tray here, we have our books. It does come with another copy of the full rule book, which is another thing that leads me to believe maybe they included everything in case you bought straight into this without buying the other one. From what I saw flipping through, it's exactly the same, although they use a Klingon ship per reference there. Although they still use a Federation ship there, which is a Galaxy class no less, which isn't even in the game. So that's kind of funny. But everything else in here is pretty much the same. Like I said, they used Klingon ships for reference in all the examples. So it's neat that they actually took the time to customize that kind of stuff. And I mean, all of the examples are Klingon ships now. And then a handy cheat sheet on the back. But this does contain all of the rules to play Attack Wing and the extra rules to play Alliance. So that's kind of cool. You can play either game out of one of those books. And we have our campaign book for the Dominion War Part 2. And this is considerably thicker book. I have not gone through and counted, but maybe I will real quick. So there is a couple more. There's 7 missions in this. Still a lot less than I would hope I want to see these have 10 to 15 in there, and then having the multiple books together would be helpful. But again, this has your basic setups and stuff in the front here, and then you start getting into how the campaign works. And I don't want to really show too much in there, but I look at my last video. I went through the first mission of the first game there and showed you how everything sets up in there. But on the back of these, they have a little story, and then it has a checklist that you're going to do as you go through the missions. I could have looked right on that to count the missions, couldn't I? Didn't even think of that, but there you go. Put the tray back in here, and we'll go on to the bases. So there we have our Galer class. And you can see they got that 180-degree front arc. Again, with these Alliance ones, they're designated into quadrants for use with the AI cards. So you have your front, rear, left, and right, and then you have a diagonal. So you have 8 quadrants all the way around. They say they're like different actions the ship can take over here. And they are generic on both sides. So it looks like what they did on these was leave the Alliance side, and if you flip it over, that's what you could use for attack wing. So that's kind of neat. Definitely did put a little bit more thought into these than the ones from the first game. Let's see, we have 2 of the Galer class. Then we have our Dominion battle cruiser. And again, they're the same way with the front. This has no rear arc, 90-degree front arc. Then we get into our player ships. And the Cabort class here has the interesting, they have a 90-degree front arc, and these dotted lines are a 45-degree front secondary arc. Again, they're the same on both sides. There is no named version of the ships in these. And then finally we have our Borchaw class. They have 90-degree front, no rear arc. And again, same on both sides. Onto the models. All of the models are the newer, like metallic versions of the ships. You can see there, they have a little bit more detail painted on them than the original ones did. And they all have this like semi-metallic finish to them. Those are our Galer class there. I can see if I put the bases on the right way around. I did not. Never going to get used to them not having the arrows. And there are 2 of the Galer class. Then we have our Dominion battle cruiser. I still wish these were a little bit darker colored. They're very, very light colored. But again, they have that metallic paint, and you can see all the other extra added details. Not so much on the bottom of these. I kind of skimped on that, but you can see like on the warp nacelles, there's a lot of little added details to them. A common issue with attack wing ships, as you can see here, the actual base is slightly crooked, and if you take these and try to twist them, sometimes you'll break the peg, so it's kind of a rough thing. The only way you can really fix those, unfortunately, is to unglue this if you use a heat gun, and you can straighten it out. Kind of a pain in the butt, but it's a common issue with them. Next we have our Cabort class bird of prey. I seem to remember these being painted different too. It's like a gold on a green, so they don't really show up too much on camera. Maybe it's something with the metallic versions of them, but anyway. And there's 2 models of this too. One has the wings in a downward position like this, and there's one with them more straight out, because the wings on these do fold. At least in the show, not in the game. They're hard plastic, but they did make a model of it both ways. Again, with the Klingon ships, I think they look better darker. And then we have the Borchaw, and again, pretty much the same there. I actually think on the Borchaw there might have been more color on the old model than these new metallic ones. And there is a whole bunch more pegs too. I think there's enough to put 2 on every ship. So if you get 2 ships that are close to each other, if they manage to hit like in the game, these can't go there because they'll hit each other. You put a second one of those pegs on there and it raises one of the ships up so that they can be right next to each other. I usually only use 1 on each of mine, but they are there if you want them. And finally, we're going to get into the cards. And this pack is super card heavy, so this section is going to take a little bit. First, we have our Jem'Hadar attack ships. So they gave us 3 new Jem'Hadar attack ships, which again, there aren't any models for those in this. They were in the original version that came with, I think, I want to say 6 of these, but we do have the tokens in here. So these are all going to be the same on the generic side here. You'll put your numbers on here that correspond with the ships. If you flip these over, though, for their elite side, each one of them has a unique ability. And I'm going to guess that if they're giving us 3 more, that these are different than ones in the originals. I will have to double check on those, but got 3 new Jem'Hadar attack ship cards. We got 6 more for the Galar class Cardassian ships. And again, all the same on the search side. Captain Skill 2 there. On this side, they vary. I think they're all Captain Skill 5 on these. But each one of them has a different ability on here. And what you're going to do with these is when you go to set up a mission, you're going to shuffle these up so you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to deal them out. So say there's 4 ships in the mission. You'll put 4 of them out there. And then one of those ships is elite. You'll flip one over. So it'll be a different one every time depending on what comes up as to what the abilities are. It gives you a little bit of replayability, which is kind of neat. Next we have our battle cruiser cards. And these start with a captain skill of 5. We got 4 of these. And these are the same thing. All the same on one side. All unique on the back side. And they go to a captain skill 7, which is nice. Well, not nice. These are the bad guys in this. So you'll have to contend with that. And then we have our 2 player boards. So if you're going to be playing a Klingon player in this, you put your name on here. As you level up, you're going to be marking these off. When you get to the underlined ones, you get to mark 2 of these 3 off. Whichever one you leave adds that slot to your ship. And then whenever you mark off, like say the second 3 here, the last one above the shaded area, you'll get an extra elite talent. So when you get over here to the 6, you'll unlock that elite talent. When you get to the 9, you'll unlock that one. Same goes for the bottom here. These are your different upgrade slots on your ship. You got crew, weapons, and tech. And as you go up levels, you're going to get points spending these. You cross these off, and you go by whatever the last uncrossed one is. So if you put 3 points into this, you're going to start with a 3. And if it's on that first one, it means you get to spend up to 3 points in crew. You're still limited to the number of slots on your ship, but you can get more slots from up here. But and then you're also limited by the number of points. So at the beginning, you can put 0 points into any of your upgrades. And you get 2 of these. I wish these had been paper, like pads that you could tear off. What I'm going to end up doing is I sleeve my cards. You can see how reflective they are. And you can write on here with a dry erase marker and just wipe it off in between. But they give you enough to play 2 Klingon characters. We're probably going to need more room here. So let's move these back a little, because there is a lot of cards to get to. So first off here we have our ships. We have our Warchalk class ship. Again, they're all generic, so there is no named ability on here. 5 attack, 1 agility, 5 hull, 2 shield. That's pretty respectable, and is one of, like I said, my favorite ships. You got a tech, secondary weapon, and crew upgrade down here. You got evasive, target lock, cloak, and sensor echo on your bar. So no battle stations on these. I don't think Klingons really use battle stations much. So most of them, because they have cloak on there. Points cost down here is 22. Does not mean anything in this game. Then we have our maneuvers. This is pretty much the standard go-to maneuver dial for a Klingon ship. You got the block of green in here in the center. 2 hard turns, which is exceptionally maneuverable for such a large ship, especially with the amount of firepower this thing has. Your 3 hard turns are in red. 3 banks, though, are not. They're just whites in there. 4 forward is probably its weakness. It's kind of a slow compared to some of those Federation ships that can pull 5s. But you do have that 3 come about maneuver in there. Of course, it's red. I don't think any ship has a come about that's not red. But that's a nice one to pull. Get into position. Use these tight turns in here to keep your targets in front of you. If you happen to get past them, pull that come about to get around behind them again. So, nice ship there. Like I said, my favorite in the game. So, I'm going to rant about it always. Next, we have our Cavort. And this, 4 attack, 1 agility, 5 hull, 2 shield. It's actually not far behind the board shot. We're only missing 1 on the attack. Same abilities here, evasive, target lock, cloak, and sensor echo. Same bar down here as well, 1 of each. And 20 points for this one. That extra 2 points being that extra attack that you're missing. Again, points don't matter in this game, at least for the ships. So you don't have to worry about those. But if you're going to use these in attack wing. As far as the maneuvers go, oddly enough, it's less maneuverable than the Borchal, which I don't get. Your 2 banks are not green anymore. Everything else is the same, though. So that's kind of an odd. I never noticed that before. I wonder if the old Cavorts were that way. I'm going to have to double check that. I mean, I guess they would be because they go by class ship. So I think the Cavort is the heaviest of the bird of preys. So that's something to keep in mind on that. And yes, they did actually give us the cards to play the various enemy ships in Attack Wing this time around. So that is cool. I'm definitely going to commend them for that. I commented about it in the my original Alliance video because it wasn't there. So here we have our battle cruiser, and I already went through the stat line on these. It's very respectable, but it is a big, large, heavy ship. Down here you've got evasive, target lock, scan, and battle stations. Kind of a full complement there on a ship that doesn't cloak. That's pretty much everything you can get. We've got 1 tech upgrade, 2 weapon upgrades, and a crew upgrade. 27 points. And that maneuver dial is actually not that bad. We've got the greens on ones. I think these are green on every ship here. Got the red hard 3s, and then a 4 come about. So a little bit slower, sluggish on the come about. Sometimes that's a good thing though, but got to keep in mind how the distance traveled before you turn around. Expected on a big ship. This is actually quite maneuverable for a big ship. Then we got our Galer class here. Again, my pride and joy. Probably my second favorite ship. I love the Cardassians, so if I was going with Cardassians, these are my favorite ships. If I'm going with the Klingons, obviously the Borchas are my go-to. But I think I have a fleet of 3. I want to say 3 or 4 Galers. I think it's 3 Galers, and then like 2 of the Hideki squadrons, and then a bunch of upgrades. And that's my go-to. I won a couple tournaments with that list. Granted, that was way back. Things have changed. These are actually considerably cheaper now. They've lowered the points on them, so I might go and revisit that list. But pretty standard stat line over here. We've got evasive, target lock, and scan. No battle stations on there. 1 of each upgrade for 17 points. Not a bad ship. And we can see here they're not very maneuverable. This is where their weakness really is. Even their 2 turns are red. So you got your standard green loadout here. No green banks. And then all your hard turns are red. It is fast, though. Up to a 5 forward, which is nice. The other bonus to these is they might not be as maneuverable as some of the other ships. Obviously, the ones we've looked at right now. But they have that 180-degree fire arc to complement it. We've got another Galer, exact same thing. Then we're going to get into our captains. And for the player-wise, the captains are nothing. You are the captain, so as you level up on these cards, you're going to get a captain skill up here at the top. That's what these numbers are, is your captain skill. So there are no named captains in this. They do have some generic captains, though, for each of the factions, so that you can field these in Attack Wing. They did reuse pictures. On the old attack wing ones, they would always use a different picture every time. Not a big deal with generic captains, though. Then we go into our elite talents, and there's quite a bit of these. Mainly because when you level up, you can eventually get up to 3 on a captain per player. You have multiple players, so I guess that's their idea. It also gives you options. All right, first up we have here is Reckless Assault. And on this it is 4 points. It says, when attacking with your primary weapon, if you're within the primary fire arc of your target, you roll +1 attack die. I'm not sure why they have a range 1 icon on here. Normally that designates range, so I'm not sure if that's a mistake or if this only works at range 1. I have to look these up. I've had a couple questions on some of these cards. There is a new icon. I'm not sure if it came out in the later versions of Attack Wing or if it's new to Alliance, but I pointed it out in the other video. This X is actually limited to 1 per ship, where I don't think there's any unique, there's some unique. So this symbol was unique, where you can only have 1 per fleet. Since you're playing co-op, it means all of the playable characters. So if you're having like 3 players against the AI, this can only appear once in the entire fleet, where ones with this X can only appear once per ship. So every ship can have one of these, but you can only have 1 on each ship. So that's kind of an interesting one. But yeah, that one's not bad. Extra attack die, but you got to be within the enemy's fire arc, which means you're basically going head to head. Makes sense for the Klingons. Not a bad card. 4 points for an attack die. Mediocre. I guess if you got some dice mitigation in there, ways to reroll, it would be interesting. But again, you got to put yourself in harm's way to do it. Next, we have evasive maneuvers. 4 points. And this is something that they added in the later versions of the game, is that this can only be put on a specific class ship. And I think that icon is for the Cabort class bird of prey. Not sure if that's all birds of prey. I think they each have a unique symbol, so that may be just the Cabort class. And this is when this ship spends a evasive token, place a time lock token on this card, place another evasive token. So basically, every time you spend if you spend an evasive token, you can place a time lock token on this card, which basically freezes this card, and you get your evasive token back. So you can use multiple evasive tokens. This plays good with that other one where you have to put yourself in their fire arc, so you can spend your evasive token, get another evasive token back, so if multiple things are shooting at you. The downside to that is it's every other turn, because the time lock token will basically be on there the next turn, so at the every other turn you could use this ability. It's not bad, but it only works if you're being shot at by multiple targets, I guess, is the big thing. Which comes into play with the Klingons. I guess you're going to be in multiple ships firing arcs sometimes. Depends on what you're doing. I try not to be in that situation. Next we have Glory to the Empire. This one's 2 points. When attacking or defending, discard this card, reroll all your dice. So it's a one-use discard to reroll. Can be used on attack or defense. Not bad, but I think there's reusable crewmen that do something very similar for close to the same points, maybe one more. But dice mitigation does help, being able to reroll. I'm just not a big fan of things that are discard on use, but that's me. Your personal mileage may vary. We got 2 copies of Glory to the Empire. I didn't point out that those aren't unique, so you could have multiple of these on a single ship too. Next we have Fight with Honor. It's 3 points. These can only be used on a Klingon ship. There is a way to cross faction. Things cost more. Most of us who play, at least here, all play faction pure anyway, so that never really came into be an issue. But when attacking a ship with an equal or higher captain skill number than you, convert one of your battle stations into a critical. That is nice. I like it. You just have to be attacking something equal or bigger, so you can't be going picking on the little guys with your big ship. Got 2 copies of that. That is a pretty good one, and it will work every time you attack something bigger than you, so that might be worth the 3 points. Next we have Strafing Run, And this is 3 points. And again, there's different birds. I think that's the Burrell logo, and that is the Cavort logo. So they do have the different birds of prey separated out. And it says, during the execute maneuver step, if your ship's base or maneuver template overlapped an opposing ship, roll an attack die on a hit or a crit. The opposing ship suffers that damage. This is kind of cool because it's not during the combat step, so they don't get to roll defense against that either. So you're getting a nice option at a hit or a crit in there. But you have to either ram them, which means be right up close to them, or overlap them with your base, which means you're flying right over top of them. So you got to be extremely close range to make use out of it, but it's definitely an interesting one. Next, we have an eye for an eye, 2 points, and this is one that's unique to a ship, must be on a Klingon ship. When defending during the deal damage step, if the ship suffers a face-up damage card and the attacking ship is in your primary arc, discard this card to deal the attacking ship one face-up damage card, even if it has active shield. That is actually a really nice card. As I said before, I'm not a huge fan of discards, but 2 points to give someone basically a free crit. The catch is you have to take a crit as well. So that could definitely be useful, especially on a ship with a higher hull value. I mean, the two Klingon ships in this have a 5 hull value, so the chances of you eventually taking a critical are pretty high, and being able to dish out a free crit back in return is very good. I actually like those. There's 2 copies of that in there. We'll definitely be making use of that in some of my builds in the future. Next we have Combined Assault. This is a unique card. 5 points. It is Federation. And after attacking or defending, target a friendly ship within range, which is range 1. Spend a battle station's evasive or scan token from beside this ship. Place a copy of that token beside the target ship. This basically allows you to spend one of your tokens to give it to an ally. And in a co-op game, that's a great thing. This is a Federation, so this is meant to go on one of those Federation ships, or you can pay the penalty to put it on a cross-faction ship. I have to double-check the rules in this and see if they have that penalty in here. Pretty sure they do, though. That's a standard thing in the game. But as I said, we almost always play faction pure, so it never comes up. But yeah, so this is meant for your Federation ships from the Star Trek Alliance, the first box, to aid one of their allies by sharing their tokens with them. Can definitely come in handy. Say you're out of position, you don't have a shot on somebody, but the Klingon ship next to you does. As long as they're within range 1 of you, you can give them your battle station token that you have and let them use it. Maybe you miscalculated, took battle stations, but you weren't in fire arc, or something didn't move where you expected it to. So lots of things you can do there. Evasive if somebody's getting shot at more than you, and you can toss them your evasive token to give them a little more defense, that kind of thing. That's kind of neat. I do like that one. 5 points is kind of expensive, but yeah, that might be the killer for it. It's definitely a useful ability. It can also double up on things. So say somebody took battle stations on their ship, you can give them a second battle stations token. That way they have one to use for offense and defense, or 2 evasive tokens to block 2 incoming hits. So it has its uses, but that 5 is a contentious point there, meaning so much. And finally, for the elite talents, we have Battle Plan. It's another unique for 4 points. Again, this one's a Federation too. When attacking, if the target's within range, it's range 1 over here, of both this ship and at least one other friendly ship, add 1 battle station result to the ship's next attack roll. So then you can convert that battle station using battle stations or any other ability that does something with battle station result rolls. It seems okay, but at the same time, it's got to be within range of this ship and at least one other friendly ship. So you're looking at three ships needing to work together just to get a battle stations. I mean, if you're flying in a formation using some kind of ability to group up, like back in the old days, you used Sinatra as a flagship to kind of fly in between 2 other ships and boost them up. So you already got 3 ships grouped together. I can see that working, but yeah, they have to be tight quarters to get just a battle stations out of it for 4 points. Maybe a little bit too difficult to pull off to be worth the points for me. Let's try it out and see. Maybe easier to do than I'm thinking in my head. So that's it for our first stack of cards. I'll go on to the second. And this one's a bit shorter stack. So first up we have Engineering Officer, 1 per ship. It is a 3-point Federation upgrade. During the perform action step, you can disable this card. The ship can perform an action while having an auxiliary pilot token next to it. So if you're doing a red maneuver, pulling a tight maneuver, and you get that auxiliary power, you can still take an action token with this. It disables, then you got to spend an action to undisable this. So it's like one use unless you get to a point where nothing else is going on. You want to re-enable him. But it allows you to pull a tight maneuver, or maybe you did a maneuver before, but you just can't get that green maneuver to get you where you want to go, and you have to do the white, and you still have that auxiliary power token. This still gives you some options. There's also Federation shenanigans to re-enable officers, too. I didn't think about that. Next, we have a Science Officer, 1 per ship. 3 points. As an action, place a scan token beside this ship. You may remove a red target lock from beside the ship and the corresponding blue one. That's kind of cool. You can just shrug off a target lock while giving yourself a scan. That's actually pretty good, I think. Next we have Helmsman, another 1 per ship. This is 2 points. During the execute a maneuver step, if the ship performed a non-red maneuver that did not overlap any ships or obstacles, you can disable this card and then perform any maneuver with a speed of 1 on the ship's dial. That's kind of neat, gives you a little extra added movement. Can definitely be useful in certain situations. See it being really useful on a Klingon ship if you're cloaked, because if you perform a white maneuver, you could basically do your maneuver, do another maneuver with this, and then execute a sensor echo with your action and make yourself very unpredictable on where you're going to end up. Next up, we have a Tactical Officer, 1 per ship, 2 points. When attacking, if you have a red target lock beside your ship, you can spend it as if it were a battle station. That's kind of interesting. So not only are you getting rid of the target lock, you're getting a battle station out of it. As long as you're attacking before they use that target lock, it can be pretty useful, and you get a free battle station out of it. Got another copy of the Tactical Officer. Next, we have an Operations Officer, 1 per ship, 4 points. It equipped to a, and I think that's the Cabort. Yeah, that's the Cabort logo. I don't like these hieroglyphs. I wish they would just say the name of the ships on there. If it's equipped to a Cabort class, add +1 to the ship's agility value. When defending, you can convert a battle station's roll into an evasive result. So both cool abilities. 4 is a bit steep. The extra stat bonus is worth 2. Yeah, this ability might be worth another 2. So I can definitely see it being useful. It's iffy on the cost. Depends on if you got the room for it. But it's also got to be limited to a specific ship type, which kind of limits it. But that extra +1 evasion on there is nice. Gives you a 2 evasion on the ship itself. If you're cloaked, that puts you up to 6 dice. So definitely something to look at. And then you can do the convert 1 battle station to an evade. So you get 1 free conversion out of there too. Yeah, I think it's worth 4 points. Next we have a Weapons Officer, 4 points. When attacking, disable this card. Convert 1 of your battle station results into a critical and all other battle station results into a hit. So it's basically an improved version of battle stations for a disable. I like the fact that it's not an action to use, it's just a disable, so you can use your action for something else. Say, use it on a target lock so that you can re-roll and make sure you get lots of battle stations, lots of hits. I like it. 4 points is a bit high, but it could definitely be useful, especially with these Klingon ships rolling 5 dice to start. Well, the Borchaw anyway. So yeah, I think that one's definitely worth checking out. Next up we have First Officer, 4 points. When attacking or defending, place a time lock token on this card. You can convert 1 battle station into a hit or into an invade. So I'm saying basically offense or defense. You can turn it into one extra hit or one extra evade. Not bad. Time locked, so it automatically comes back up. I don't know, I think it's not as good as the weapons officer, but at the same time, the weapons officer requires an action to rearm, where this will automatically arm itself every other time. Toss up either way. I think I'd take the weapons officer over this, though, personally. I guess that gets to be used on defense as well. So next, we have a forward battery. Oh, we're on to weapons. Forward battery, 5 points. This goes on the Negvar and the Vorchal class. When defending during the declare target step, if the attacking ship's in your primary fire arc, which they almost always are going to be unless you're using a secondary weapon, roll 1 attack die on a hit or crit. Deal 1 damage to the attacking ship before it attacks. Oh, it's when defending. Duh, okay. So basically it's a counterattack. Preemptive attack, I guess is the way to put that. That could be interesting. An extra shot on somebody before they shoot back at you. My question is, that's outside of the combat step, so I don't think they get to roll evasion on that as well. So that, if that's the case, that makes that a little bit better. 5 points is kind of steep for that, but it depends on how that works. Have to double check on that one. I find more questions out while I'm making these videos that I gotta look up than I do when I'm looking through these cards on my own. Next we have Disruptor Overcharge. 3 points. Looks like Borchaw class there. When attacking with the ship's primary weapon, roll attack dice during the roll attack dice step. If you roll at least 1 critical, add an extra hit to the total. Again, these have a 1 to 2 range on there. I'm assuming that's the range that it's effective as, but nothing in here mentions that it needs to be in that range. I think it does just because that's there. Otherwise, it would make no sense to put that on there. They definitely need to make these things more clear. It's a secondary weapon that you can fire. Oh no, this isn't. So basically, this just buffs your primary weapon, which is even better because it doesn't count as a secondary weapon attack. Which means at range 1, you're still getting the close range bonus too, and you're getting an extra damage. So as long as you roll at least 1 crit, you get an extra damage out of it. That is definitely a nice attack. I got no complaints to say about that one, other than the wording on that. But well, the fact that it doesn't mention the range being apart. I'm just going to say that yes, you need to be in that range. Otherwise, it would be pointless for them to put that on there. Maybe that was gone over in one of the newer editions. I'm an edition behind on the game. Next, we have photon torpedoes for 3. These can be fired out of a forward or rear firing arc, primary or secondary, however you want to word it. The value attack is special, range 2 to 3. The attack value of this weapon is the ship's primary weapon value plus 1. That's a big upgrade over the old torpedoes. I think they were always a 5. So these can, on the Borchaw class, can be a 6 to start with. As an attack, spend this ship's target lock, disable this card, target an opposing ship. This ship can convert one blank into a critical. That's actually really good. And might actually make torpedoes worth using. There's still, it takes your target lock, and it's a disable, so you got to spend another action later to re-enable it. But yeah, possible 6 die attack out of your rear with a free convert a blank to a crit. Definitely be useful. The catch to torpedoes basically is you're using your target lock to fire them, so you don't have it to re-roll. So unless you have another way to re-roll, you're kind of stuck with what you get, or you need a battle stations. So it takes some setup to play, but these definitely an improvement over the old torpedoes. I wish I had time lock though instead of disable on there. We got 2 copies of those. Next we have torpedo fusillade. Yeah, how do you say that? Fusillade? Fusillade. I don't know how to say it. This card was actually in a promo ship, I think, at one point, because I had this card from Attack Wing. It is a special points cost because it matters on what you use it on. It can be fired out of the primary arc only. The cost of the D and the attack value of this is equal to the ship's primary weapon value. So in the case of the Borchaw class, it's going to be 4 points and 4 damage. As an attack, you remove this card from the game, target all opposing ships, make a separate attack roll against each targeted ship. So you basically get to fire your primary weapon against every ship in range 2 to 3, which is pretty disgusting for a one-shot weapon, points matter, but at the same time, the higher the points, the higher the damage. It really matters if you're playing against somebody with one or two big ships. It's not going to be quite as effective as somebody using 5 little ships. In the campaign game, it all depends, like I said, what you're up against on the mission. Definitely an interesting card, though. Next, we have Converging Fire, 2 points. Goes on the Vorcha or the Negvar. During the combat phase, friendly ships treat your target locks as their own. That is pretty cool. It allows you to aid maybe you've got an ally who's got torpedoes, hasn't had a chance to get a target lock yet. You have one, but you're not in range to use any of your secondaries, or you don't need the reroll for it. You can basically say, hey, take my target lock, shoot that guy. So, cool option there. 2 points isn't too bad. Definitely works best if you're building around it, so you have another ship definitely that has torpedoes. Obviously, if nobody in your group has torpedoes, might not be that useful. Then again, you're just treating the target lock as your own, so they would be able to use it to spend it to reroll too, I would think. So definitely useful all around. I like that one. Now on to our tech upgrades. First one we have here is Extend Shields. This is 3 points. It's a Federation one. Range 1. During the end phase, if you have one or more active shields, place 3 time tokens on this card. Place 1 auxiliary beside this card to target a friendly ship within range. The target ship repairs 1 shield. Seems like a big cost for repairing 1 shield. I guess if you're an ally to the Klingons, it might be worth it, which I think is the case they're going for here, because as long as they have 1 shield, they can cloak. So if they're out of shields, this allows you to repair 1 shield. They can bring your cloak back online. Kind of pricey in my opinion. I guess it depends on the fleet makeup that's built around it. Next we have Reactor Vent. 4 points. Range 1. Combat phase. If there's an opposing ship within range, you may spend 1 auxiliary token from beside this ship to roll 1 attack die. On a hit or crit result, discard 1 shield token from the enemy ship. This is kind of entertaining to combine with things like the last one that gives you an auxiliary token, and you can spend that auxiliary token to deal damage to somebody. 4 points is a lot, but at the same time, if you are planning around this, that could be actually quite entertaining and kind of unexpected. I might have to toy with that one. The short range is probably its biggest weakness. But at the same time, especially with Klingon ships, I like to be up close to get that +1 damage for, or +1 dice for close range. So, be interesting to play with that. Next, we have Targeting Array for 4 points. You can have 2 blue target lock tokens. When you perform a target lock action, you may perform an additional target lock action against a different opposing ship within range. This is actually kind of cool, especially if you're doing a missile boat or something. But this is the one of, I think there's a couple other things that allow it, but this basically allows you to have 2 target locks, which means you can use one, well, they're on separate targets, so I guess you'd need a way to attack twice, but either way, it lets you get a target lock on somebody. You can fire, use a weapon, whatever, use reroll, whatever you want to do on that guy. Still have one on another guy, not have to waste another turn. And it doesn't have any kind of reuse thing. So basically, it's whenever you take the target lock action, you get 2. So it's giving you a free action. Granted, it has to be a target lock, but definitely useful. And there's lots of ways I can just think of off the top of my head to build around that and have some fun with it. Next, we have Secondary Cloaking Coil for 3 points. As an action, discard this card, repair 1 shield token. If you have the cloak action on the ship's cloak action bar, you can cloak as a free action. Kind of interesting. 3 points to repair 1 shield, but you get a free cloak out of it. In the right situation, it can definitely be worth it. I don't know, it's three points worth a shield. I mean, normally a stat point's worth about 2, but you're not actually, you're regaining 1. Situational, I think, especially if you're playing a Klingon or any ship that cloaks, basically. Because, say you're out of shields, you can use this, repair a shield, then immediately cloak. Definitely has its uses. I'd have to play with that one and see, but I could see it being useful. So many interesting new options. Next, we have reinforced hull, 2 points. And then this icon here means you have to have a hull value of 4 or greater to mount this on your ship. And it adds +2 to this ship's hull value. That is pretty interesting. I think we've seen this card before somewhere. I'm not sure where, but something very similar to it. But definitely worth it to me. Normally, a stat point on your ship is worth 2 points each. So if you're raising it by 2, that would be a value of 4 points, at least by old math standards. So you're getting it at half the price. It does take up a tech slot, though, so that's something to keep in mind. And the limitation on what you can put it on, too. But definitely a nice card. Next, we have passive sensors. For 2 points during the end phase, if you did not attack this round, place a scan token on this card. As a free action, place a scan token from this card beside your ship. So if you go around without attacking, you can put a sensor token on here, and then you could add that to your ship later as a free action. Gives you something to do on those rounds where you might not be able to do anything else. But generally on those kind of rounds, I tend to try to either get a target lock, but if nothing's in range, maybe you go with evasives in case somebody does get in range. I don't know. It does give you something to do on those turns where maybe you're out of position and you're trying to reposition and re-angle yourself. Might be worth the 2 points though. I don't use scan very often though, unless I have an ability that triggers off it. Making your opponent lose one die just never really was a big deal to me. I guess if they only have one defense die, like if you're fighting against the Galar classes, getting rid of that one die might be worth it, but your mileage may vary on that. I'm not a huge fan of scan dice or scan tokens to begin with, so that is totally up to you on that one. And finally, we have enhanced thrusters for 5 points, and this can only go on the Cabort and Burrell. I think that's Burrell. I know there's like 4 different kinds of birds of prey, but definitely Cabort on the top one. During the execute maneuver step, when the ship performs a bank maneuver of a speed 2 or 3, you can treat that maneuver as a red to rotate this ship 180. So basically, you get a come about on a bank maneuver. That actually is pretty nice. 5 points is very steep for that. It also counts as a red maneuver, so you're giving yourself an auxiliary power token. Man, that's a rough call on that one because you could still already. I think most of the ships that this is going to go on can already do a red come about maneuver, but you got to go straight to do that. I don't know. I'd have to mess around with it. It's an idea. I like using a bank come about maneuver. Just the thought of that is nice, especially even up to a 3. But at the same time, yeah, you're burning an extra 5 points on that, and a red maneuver, which come about's going to be a red maneuver anyway. Yeah, I don't think that's worth 5 points to me. I don't know. You have to tell me what you think of that one. That one seems. Yeah, I like the concept of it. Don't like the 5 points. Maybe if it was 3, I'd probably give it a try for 3. Definitely for 2. I would try it for 3. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it at 5. Let me know what you think of that one. And that's it. That's a look at everything that comes in the Star Trek Alliance Dominion War Campaign Part 2 box. This one introduces us to Cardassian ships, the Jem'Hadar battlecruiser, also brings the Klingons into the fray. For everything I've seen and heard, you can also start with the Klingons in the original campaign and play through that as well. It just basically adds them as playable characters now. And I think, I'll say it's in the back of this book. Trying to find it on camera, that'll be fun. Somewhere in here. Aha, it's in the other book. It took me a minute. In the scenario book here, there's a list for using other ships. So you could start with the Burrell or Katinga. As you go up levels, you can buy new ships basically. But it has the captain skill that is required to use the various ships. Also lists some Federation ships on here. The original book only had Federation ships because Klingons weren't added yet. But so you can use ships that exist in your collection based on your captain skill to bring them into the game. Points do not matter on the ships, so the bottom number down here does not matter. It matters what model you're allowed to bring based on the chart. So keep that in mind, and they need to be the generic version of the ship, not the named version that has the bonus stats. Nothing in the game prevents you from doing that. I guess it's recommended against, but you'll make the game easier for yourself by doing so. So I maybe bump up the difficulty if you're going to do something like that. But yeah, that's a look at everything that comes in here, and we're going to get it all packaged back up and play a few rounds, and I'll come back and let you know my thoughts on Dominion War Campaign Part 2. So what do I think of the Star Trek Alliance Dominion War Part 2? It brought in Klingons, which I really enjoy playing. I love my Vorchal class, so I've said that multiple times. So yeah, there's that to it. I think this one, maybe it's just me, feels way more combat heavy than the first one. The first one had a couple of recon missions. Run in, do this, run out. This one seems more focused on run in, destroy the target. There's a mission where you have to blow up cargo ships running through. There's a mission where you got to take out shipyards. And that's the kind of stuff I like. So I definitely enjoyed some of the missions in this better than the original. The two complement each other great. I think you can play the two together. I think now looking at it, I think that's the way they're designed. Is you play part 1, part 2, part 3 as one big campaign, and that makes more sense to me. Gives you the more missions that you want, and you build up, and also lets you have a lot more cooler stuff when you get into some of these missions. So that's an interesting concept for it, and definitely can't wait to try some higher level stuff with some of the other my attack wing things. We've been slowly trying to mix and match things in here so we can use our favorite stuff. And I personally like the Cardassian ships, so we're going to try a playthrough where I'm playing with those. They are very unmaneuverable though, so gotta keep that in mind. But definitely a nice addition to the original game. Adds a lot to the campaign, and yeah, adds more player options too, which is always good. So overall, I really like it. One of my biggest complaints about the original game was that they didn't come with the components to use the Jem'Hadar ships in Attack Wing, which they remedied in this. Though I would have liked to see those. I'm still missing those 3 dials for the ships in the first game. They need to come out with those. Maybe in the third one, we'll get the extra dials for the first couple ships that we didn't get dials for. But because I don't have a playable Jem'Hadar fleet, I got rid of all my Jem'Hadar ships when I cut down my collection a few years back. I only kept my favorite stuff from a few of the factions, and then of course my huge Klingon fleet. I kept my huge Cardassian fleet I kept, but I got rid of a lot of my stuff that I just didn't use. And in doing so, now that everything's so hard to come by and I want to play with my friends, I'm letting them use my stuff. Hey, you want to play the Romulans? Here's my Romulan stuff. Well, I don't have Jem'Hadar. So being able to use the Jem'Hadar stuff in Attack Wing is great. Still need those dials for the first 3 ships though. Overall though, as far as this box goes, I absolutely loved the new additions to it. And it was more of the same, more of the campaign. Klingon, being able to play a Klingon is nice. A lot of cool upgrade cards in here. Even if you don't play Alliance, I think there's some great upgrade cards in here that you can pick up and add to your Attack Wing collection. It is worth noting that the backs of all these cards, though, do say Alliance on them instead of Attack Wing, which I thought was kind of a weird choice since they're all compatible anyway, but it's just weird having a different back on them. But I get having the name of the game on there, I guess. Let's just separate them out easy afterward. But I'm probably going to mix all mine together eventually anyway. But that said, having Klingons in the Dominion War campaign is a huge bonus. I really love it. And doing some combined games now with Federation and Klingons have been kind of fun because they can support each other. The Klingons generally tend to be more aggressive, so their ships do more damage. They have more upfront, in-your-face bonuses to just get stuck in, where the Federation has more laid back. They're more of a well-rounded faction. They like to do combinations of things, secondary weapons, crew combinations, tech upgrades that all combine together to they make good support. Maybe not necessarily frontline attack units, which there are Federation ships that are good for that. Just the Akira can be. I don't know. It's just a style of play to me. So now you have that more supportive unit in the Federations, and you have the more attack unit in the Klingons. Can't wait till we get to add the Romulans in. Who knows what they're going to be? They're the sneaky background gits who do God knows what and start using Thalaron radiation weapons against people. So we'll see how that works out in part 3. As for part 2 goes, though, like I said in the original one, if you're a fan of Star Trek Attack Wing, you're probably going to enjoy this. If you're looking for a way to play solo or play co-op, definitely the Alliance game is where it's at. I hope that they continue this, maybe with a new storyline in the future. The Dominion War is coming to an end, I think, with part 3. But then we can go on to something else, maybe a set of these versus the Borg. So if anybody out there is listening, check that out. I want to see a campaign version like this of a Borg invasion. Let's see it. I want to see Wolf 359. I have the big cubes. They're actually, I don't know if I can do this on camera. They're up there. I have both of my big cubes and DS9. And again, that would be a cool thing to add to a campaign style game like this. Maybe if they don't make one, I'll make my own. We'll see about that. Anyway, that's wrap it up for our look at Star Trek Alliance, the Dominion War campaign, part 2. Hope it helps you decide if it's something you're interested in. Like I said, if you're interested in Alliance, if you're interested in Attack Wing, you probably already have it. Who am I kidding? But if you don't, definitely worth checking out. You also get new cards, new ships, new things that you can use in your Attack Wing game. So you can't go wrong since those are getting harder and harder to come by, especially if you like any of the ships in here. I love Galars. I love the Warchaw. Heck, I like the Bird of Praise. I wasn't a huge fan of the Jem'Hadar. A friend of mine plays like exclusively Jem'Hadar, so that was part of the reason I got rid of mine, because he was always playing them. And I always wanted to play something different. So, but yeah. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for this video. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.